Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online news video. Today the devs have posted a new thing on the ESO website called Update 17 brings greater teamwork and tactics to ESO combat. Now, I have not been on the forums today, so I do not know the uproar this is going to create, but I can guess it is a lot because of the things that of the way things are worded. Now, I've already read over all this, and I wanted to be clear that I do agree with everything that's happening right now in the game, with changes and all that. Now, do I think that the changes that are coming to ESO's combat as all is good? Most of it, yes. But I know that it's going to affect people's power levels when it comes to in-game combat. Just like a lot of people know that. And I do feel, you know, I'm like, well, that sucks. I'm losing damage. But it's pretty cool. So let's go over these changes that they're talking about. So they say here, Update 17 introduces a host of changes to introduce Elder Scrolls Online Combat, or Online's combat, that emphasizes smart teamwork and tactical play. Learn everything you need to know about the changes coming to combat in the coming base game update. Update 17 arrives alongside Dragonbone's DLC pack as a free patch to the base game on February 12th for PC, Mac, and February 27th for PlayStation and Xbox One. Whether you're on an Alliance War veteran, would you stop? An Alliance War veteran, an undaunted dungeon delver, or a lone wolf adventurer, these combat changes are relevant to what you do. So let's get right into that. Teamwork prevails with improved synergies. So ability synergies in ESO are designed to give players additional opportunities to benefit from teamwork and communication. Leading up to Update 17, we were seeing groups using synergies as effectively as we wanted, or weren't seeing groups using synergies as effectively as we wanted, so we made them easier to use and gave them a series of buffs and fixes. With this update, we wanted to make synergies easier to understand and even easier to activate, says ESO's lead combat designer, Eric Warble. Every ability that offers a synergy now displays a clear visual indicator, such as a column of light. Once the synergy is used, the indicator disappears. This helps other players know whether they can expect to find a synergy there. So basically what's happening is synergies were really complicated for people to use before because they had no indication of, oh, hey, I can use this. Even though it popped up on your screen telling you, hey, press X to activate the synergy. But a lot of people didn't use synergies because they didn't understand the purpose. Now, when it comes to in-game, we know why we use synergies. It's our one of the main resource returns we get is through synergy use. So at in-game PvE, we use synergies for that purpose, and also to apply like negative debuffs, you know, damage out, you know, increase our damage, do all kinds of different things. And there's a lot of synergies in the game. Now, they did put a visual aid in there that does help for some of these synergies, like if you use Blood Fountain. Blood Fountain before, you couldn't really see it. Like, you could see the big square box, but you couldn't really tell, like, it was a synergy. Now it actually shoots, like, a massive bright light from it, so you can, oh, I can activate this. And then you go up and you activate the synergy. But here's the thing. There's a reason why they say it's a teamwork and communications thing. Because, like, I can say to my group, hey, I'm putting down Blood Fountain. Let the timer run down before activating this synergy. And they'll go, okay. So they know that I'm clarifying, hey, don't activate this Blood Fountain until it's down to its end. And then activate the synergy from it, so that way we gain the greater benefit from it. So we can utilize the synergy for the full purpose and then activate the synergy. And you can do this with any synergy, but I do think that this is a good change. The visual indicator also communicates the synergy's remaining cooldown time, and they now fire immediately when activated, regardless of what your character is doing. These changes make synergies more effective, and they'll go a long way towards boosting your group's sustain, survivability, or damage. Use them well. So, back to the synergy use. Before, you would have to actually stop your rotation if you were a DPS, activate a synergy, and then go back into your rotation. Now you can activate it on rotation. So while you're sitting there running your rotation, you can actually activate synergies without breaking your rotation. So it's a good change. That part's good. The other thing that they changed was they did change synergy cooldowns to 30 seconds, but brought them back to 20 seconds because of it just wasn't good. The synergy cooldown is still there, so we still have a 20-second cooldown to activate synergies. Now, I'm going to say something. On PTS, we did do some messing around with synergies, me and a couple people I know, and you can activate multiple synergies, and then they go on global cooldown. So, like, if I was playing a tank and somebody threw me a spear shard, I could activate the synergy. If somebody threw me an orb right afterwards, I could activate that synergy. I can do those, but once you activate it, that synergy is now on a global cooldown of 20 seconds. So I don't know if they meant to fix the whole global cooldown to 20 seconds for all of them, or if it's supposed to be still individual, because it is still showing up individual on PTS. So watch your spacing in Cyrodiil. In Cyrodiil, we want to encourage a wide variety of strategy and tactics, and this includes the way large groups move together. Over time, we've tried to encourage groups to spread out more and stack up less with various additions. The Vicious Death set, blah, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff. But we still weren't seeing the changes we wanted. To further this goal, we have removed the damage cap of area of effect abilities. Previously, the damage of a group of players received from AoEs were capped, but now everybody within an AoE's radius suffers full damage. This change encourages large groups to spread out more and take different approaches to large-scale combat. In addition to this, it gives smaller groups opportunities to take on larger ones with smart tactical placement of their AoEs. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, this is going to really screw up Cyrodiil. This is actually going to make Cyrodiil a better place. See, I've done a lot of Cyrodiil. I've done a lot of PvP because I love this siege system. I think it's really cool. My problem is that whenever you were, like, if you were defending a keep, and let's say, since I was on EP, Ebonheart Pact, and AD was attacking, AD is always a Zerg. And if they hit your front gate with that Zerg, let me tell you, there's like 50 people there, and they just stack in one spot. They don't move around. These guys just stack in one spot because they can cover everything in that one tight ball group. Now they can't do that because I can drop a couple AoEs in there and these guys are going to have to spread out or they're going to take the damage. And it's one of those things, like it hopefully will fix that situation, like the Zerg balls and all that kind of stuff. And it will make sieges on keeps a little bit more interesting because now I can set up like like explosive, like the fire catapult up on a wall, fire it down on a bunch of guys, and actually get some use out of it. Instead of going, oh, well, am I going to be able to hit these guys because they're all crammed together like that? And is this going to even be effective because they can just out-heal my damage? All that kind of stuff. I do think that this is a good change to Cyrodiil. How much it will affect it, hopefully we'll see. So this is, to me, a good change. Block more and block often. So blocking was always intended to be one of ESO's core defense mechanics. And there are times in the game where all players need to block in order to stay alive. However, we noticed that a large gap formed between regular players and hardcore tanks, where the stamina block cost was too expensive for the former and almost insignificant for the latter. To address this, the base stamina block cost has been lowered and the effectiveness of block cost enchants reduced. With this change, we wanted to cut down on the extremes in block cost to create a more consistent experience. And this is what Warble's saying. Top-end players could get blocks to cost around 100 stamina, while the average player has to spend over 2,000. Since the cost has been applied 4 times in a second, or can be applied 4 times in a second, you can drain your entire stamina bar in a blink of an eye. And he's not lying. So this is how it worked. Okay, we all know the meta tank stacks, runs full sturdy gear with that's like what is it? It's like 32% block cost reduction on top of the 36 you get from Sword and Shield passive, the 25 they're getting from champion points, and then the block cost enchants, which drops the total cost to 600 or 609. It used to cost about 3k almost to block, and even if you put a bunch of points in your champion points, you could never get your block low enough. Like even as like with the regular tanks, most regular tanks aren't running sturdy. They're not running this or not. They're running whatever they deem viable for themselves. And the in-game hardcore tanks are all running sturdy gear, all this block cost, and their blocks were literally costing them 88. Now, with their builds, they're costing 336, and with the average player, you're looking at anywhere between that 336 and, or I should say 500 to 1,000 is what you're looking at now. And so it does help with this new change for block cost and all that kind of stuff, but it still can be a problem. If you guys hear that meowing in the background, that's my cat. It's driving me nuts. So if you're an experienced tank who makes use of block cost enchants, you still be the best at what you do. But you will need to change up some of your tactics. However, if you block occasionally because you can't afford the stamina cost, you can now make greater use of the defensive options or option, hopefully stay alive. So basically, the reason why this change was done is because it was costing the average tank or the average player more to block than it was the high-end tank. And they didn't like that. They didn't like how it did that. So they adjusted the value, like how much it would cost, and said, here, let's do this. And they adjusted it and dropped it down, the cost, and then they adjusted the cost reduction and how they work, which is good. It's a good change. Now it's going to cost them 336, and they've got to adjust to compensate. Now, how they choose to do that, I'm not even going to get into that discussion because, yeah, we won't get into that. But I do think it's a good change. Outwit opponents with ability and interrupt changes. In ESO's PvP combat, we want to ensure that all abilities have their time and place while giving you opportunities to read and react to what your opponent is doing. However, we found that abilities with a cast time were being interrupted too often in PvP to make them viable. With Update 17, we've reduced the severity of the movement speed penalty when using an ability with a cast time to allow you to maneuver more during a fight. This better supports the quick pace of battle if you like to use those abilities or these abilities. However, when you cast the abilities, you can also now have a red telegraph indicating that you can be interrupted by your opponents. If the ability is interrupted, you can't cast the same ability until a short cooldown. But don't worry, you'll get your opportunity to try again. So here's what Warble says about it. Interrupting the enemy stops the current cast, but makes the future casts unstoppable. With this change, it will be easier for players to know if an ability is interruptible or not, and the strategy will shift towards interrupt timing. These changes add a new layer to PvP combat for both combatants, and it increases the viability of abilities that have cast time while also providing tactical options to help them counter them. So this is just basically fixing the interrupt issue that a lot of people have in PvP, where they don't know if an ability is interruptible or not. They kind of have to, guesstimate. So this will give you a telegraph thing saying, hey, you can interrupt this guy. So that's kind of cool. Time your heavy attacks tactically. So when engaging in PvE battles, we want to promote consistent and coordinated group play. With this in mind, heavy attacks now no longer remove the off-balance debuff from bosses, giving everyone in your group opportunities to utilize them. While these changes, players can now plan around the off-balance mechanic because it will no longer be constantly applied and removed before they can react to it. And this is Warble again talking. Players in the middle of the rotations will have a greater variety of decisions to make. Do I cast the high damage ability, or do I use my heavy attack to get a load of resources? Now, before I get into that discussion, I want to go down here and read the rest of it. Okay, so we've also increased the amount of resources you gain from hitting an off-balance enemy with a heavy attack. You now gain around double the amount you usually get. In addition to this, heavy attacks now benefit from the same speed boost that abilities with a cast time received above, making it easier to maneuver and land your attacks. However, we've also made it so bosses will be immune to off-balance mechanic for a period of time, or a period after it ends. This creates opportunities for regeneration phase during long boss fights and more tactical options for all. So I want to say, like, what Warble's trying to say. I want to try and clarify it, because I understand what he's trying to say. In the past, off balance was used to maximize group DPS, which was a good thing. But they didn't have the intentions for it to be used that way originally, like for it to be overly used. So they adjusted it, and now made it to where it's going to be better to use it for, like, those regeneration phases. You guys don't know what a regeneration phase is, because we've never experienced that in this game. In Elder Scrolls, or in Guild Wars 2, in certain boss encounters, we had, like, what we call a regeneration phase, where you would do all your burst, and then you would do, like, your auto attack for a little bit and let your abilities all come off cooldown, and then run all your abilities again to burst them, and then let them cool down again. But you had to do this at different increments of time, and you had to time it perfectly on some of the boss encounters. So that's basically what they're saying. They're saying that they want off balance to be a timed decision. Okay, off balance is up, let's get resources. Okay, off balance is up, let's do damage, kind of thing. So that way people aren't burning through the boss like super fast, but also at the same time it gives them time to decide, say, hey, you know what, guys, let's do this off balance, let's get our resources back. Because off balance now has a 15-second cooldown. So once off balance comes off the boss, you have 15 seconds before you can reapply it. So wait that time, boom, do it again. Wait that time, wait, do it again. So you want to keep it consistent, like I said. And I think the idea sounds good on paper, but what we're seeing on PTS, with the way people are running their builds still, they're still trying to keep that 100% uptime of off balance, and it's not going to work. And even building around the idea of having off balance up all the time isn't the wisest thing to do. So a little bit more testing. We should find out how well this is working, but I do like the idea. By sound, it sounds good. What we see on the screen sounds good. But what we're seeing on PTS, people are it's not that their mindset is what it is. Have you guys ever heard this mindset? Basically, your brain becomes so accustomed to something that it's the mindset. Your mind is set to that. Kind of like me. I can set my alarm for 5:30 in the morning. Do I wake up? No. But there's times where I'll wake up like 10 minutes early before my alarm goes off at 5:30, and I will automatically wake up without even thinking about it, because my mind has an internal thing that's telling it, okay, you got to get up at 5:30. And before the alarm even goes off, I will wake myself up. The same thing goes with, it's muscle memory is what mindset is. But it's a teaching. So we've been taught by the community, or by the people, that off balance is how we need to play. Changing that mindset can be really hard for some people. Just like the idea of blocking. Okay, when do I block? When don't I block? Do this kind of thing, you know, this cat and mouse game. Because when you, like, if people did a guide to a trial, for example, and they really wanted to make a good guide for the trial, they could literally count out where the blocking needs to be done, instead of just saying hold block the whole time. But nobody does that. They're like, just block everything. Even though you don't really need to. Even fighting this boss encounter right here, you don't need to hold block all the time. You only need to block one thing every so often. The rest of the time, you don't even need to block, really, because their hits barely do any damage to you. And what damage they do, the healer out-heals it anyway, so it's not like you even notice. But the point is that they're trying to give us tactical play that they want us to use. And that's the intentions of the game's design. That's what all these changes are, is to put the game into the perspective of their design. They had intentions for us using synergies for a reason. Nobody was really using them. Now they want us using them again. The same thing goes with the off balance, the block cost, all that. It's not that they don't want you to block. They just want you to block they want you to block when it's necessary, not when it's not necessary. Because you don't have to block everything. You just need to block the necessary things. And I've heard the arguments. I've gone over this a million times with meta people, and honestly, like their biggest arguments are like 3 or 4 encounters in the game, and I'm going, you guys, this is like 4 encounters in the whole entire game. We're not talking about, you know, this boss in this dungeon where you barely have to block, or this boss in this trial where you barely have to block. We're talking about certain encounters where block is important. There's a reason why they give you a group healer, so they heal the group. You're part of that group. There's a reason why heavy armor gives you greater healing received. There's a reason why DKs get natural healing received in their class passives. To heal better. I mean, I'm not even going to get into this. So they say ESO combat is evolving with these changes. We're aiming to make ESO combat more responsive, tactical, and ultimately fun. Don't forget to check out the patch notes, which will be out on the 12th, which is Monday. So this coming Monday, the actual patch for live Dragon Bones will be coming out, and update 17. And then on Xbox and PS4 will be out on the 20. The game will be, or the update will be out on the 27th. The patch notes will still be out by then, though. You guys can go read the patch notes on the website when they come out. I will be covering those when they come out, by the way. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I myself am not bothered by a lot of these changes. In fact, I love the block cost changes because it improves my tanking. It helps my tanks work better. And the meta tanks are still really good at what they do. So I'm not complaining about the block cost. I'm not complaining about synergies. I am complaining a little bit about the off balance change because it does change your group's DPS. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Now, here's the thing you have to understand is off balance gets removed, or would get removed before, whenever you would deal damage. So off balance would get applied and be gone. And only one person could actually be affected, or could affect it. And you could reapply it like non-stop. So how it worked in the past was people just kept it up so much that it would just, they would get that 10% damage for one person and one ability at one time. So, yeah, sounds great, doesn't it? Just 10% for one ability, one thing of damage. Yeah, well, that's what they were concerned about. And honestly, you don't see a difference in the damage, even without off balance. You won't notice much of a difference. And then if you do, it's going to be marginal. Like, people are making a big deal out of nothing, and I really have to say that. Now, I myself do think it's a bad change, or that it's going to affect things, because I already know it does, but it's not to the point that people are making it out. It's really not. So, but altogether, I think that all these changes are really good. I do hope that it does improve combat in Cyrodiil, in dungeons and trials and all that kind of stuff in open world, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what other people think about it. I've already, you know, done a majority of my testing now, and I'm still working on some stuff, I'm not going to lie, but nothing's happening to any of the builds I've released. None of these changes are going to affect them. because I built them around these changes. So expect next week damage dealers. So, but it still depends on how the patch is, what happens with the patch. If something changes drastically in the patch, I will change the damage dealer stuff, but most of them are pretty much set in stone, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm already building them right now to release next week, so I'm gonna have them all ready, and if there is any changes, I can make those changes really quick. I won't have to really worry about much. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys like this news. I'm happy for it, like I said. You know, not every change they make am I happy for. Like the change to low slash, they changed that to where it's like it used to apply this movement speed debuff, 60% movement speed debuff for 12 seconds. Now it's like 4 seconds, and I'm like, oh my god, really? So I don't like that change personally, but I can't change it. I'm not the developers. They made that decision on their own. I have to live with it. I have to deal with it. So, but yeah. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.